Thank you very much, and it's such a pleasure and honor to be with you all here today. Incredibly exciting time. I also do want to offer my personal thanks to the organizers and sponsors of the conference. These kinds of meetings are incredibly important to bring people together. It gives us the opportunity to learn, and some of the panels have just incredibly cutting-edge technologies being presented, exciting companies. So the learning opportunity for all of us is significant, but also the opportunity to network and get to know each other a little bit better and make new friends, but also new acquaintances and potentials for partnerships and opportunities to work together. Also, I think this kind of conference is an opportunity to really showcase the region. When you think about the vibrancy of the whole Research Triangle area in terms of the leading universities, you can't build the kind of universities like UNC and Duke and Wake Forest and North Carolina State overnight. It takes decades, if not centuries, to build this kind of leading institutions, and to capitalize on that academic research strength with the kind of companies that are here today. That opportunity to really accelerate the growth and bring these people together is something that will be incredibly important to the economy, important to addressing some of the most challenging problems we have in our society. So I appreciate and thank the organizers. Great things don't happen easy and don't happen by accident. So thanks for the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon about some of the things that are going on in life sciences and some of the ideas that can talk about some of in fact, the time that we're in today in life sciences, in many ways, the absolute best of times, and also some of the most challenging times at the same time. The best of times in the sense that we are on the verge of tremendous breakthroughs in biomedical research. The leveraging of information technology finally coming into all aspects of healthcare to accelerate transformational change. We've retooled R&D throughout our industry, through academia, to leverage off of the mapping of the human genome, understanding proteomics, the acceleration of understanding of the immune system. So many advances in technologies. The productivity is accelerating. The promise is so bright. There's no doubt this is the century of molecular biology, but I'm confident the next 10 years will be the highlight of the dawn of so many breakthroughs in areas of really changing the way we think about life and the problems that we face. But it's also an incredibly challenging time. You don't have to read the paper very often to think about and read about the political challenges we have, the economic struggles we have, the fiscal crisis we have, not just in the United States, but all over the world. Now we hear the hard landing in China, the challenges in emerging markets, all throughout the world, tremendous economic and political, financial challenges that we face in terms of advancing innovation and making innovative therapies accessible to patients all around the world. Also, we face some very serious headwinds in terms of demographics. When we think about aging populations in the developed world and the challenge that brings to our healthcare system just from the absolute amount of health care that's required and the cost of that health care as the societies age. So the best of times, but also incredibly challenging times. So when Bill asked me to come and meet and be with you at the conference, I said, what can I do? What can I provide in terms of adding something to the conference? And you have such great speakers and great panels. I thought about it, I said, if I do nothing else but come and thank and show recognition to all of you that are taking the risks to be entrepreneurs, to deal with some of the toughest challenges we face in our society, that really spurs the economic growth of our communities. It enhances the quality of life in our communities and the vibrancy of our societies by people taking the risks to deal with the challenges that we face in our societies. So if I did nothing else but to come and thank you for taking those risks, my trip would be much worth it to be with you. So thank you for what you're doing to address these issues and make a difference in our society. So thank you very much. As was mentioned, I've been at Celgene almost 17 years, and we've had an amazing run from a very small company to now a relatively large global company. And we've had some highs and some challenges, and we've had some lessons learned. So I hopefully will share a few of those with you in terms of hopefully you may avoid some of the pitfalls that we hit and maybe accelerate some of the successes that we've had. Also, the last 8 or 9 years, I've had the opportunity to be a part of some of the national discussions on policies and principles of healthcare in America and in international markets. So I thought maybe I'd share some of those insights with you, because the world that we live in is so important to our own strategy for our businesses and our institutions. If we don't understand the outside world, it's very hard to believe we can have successful strategies to make our institutions and organizations as successful as they can be. So let me tell you just a little bit about some of the lessons that we've learned and thought about at Celgene. And there are many early stage companies out there today, and it doesn't seem that long ago that Celgene was a very early stage company. Time does go by so fast. When I joined Celgene, we had 6 weeks of cash left. We'd been a public company for 12 years, never hit the IPO price in 12 years. Options expired worthless after 10 years. Celgene, if nothing else, was a story in persistence. 17 years as a public company before its first year of profitability. Significant, significant challenges. As we began in the early 2000s to have a little bit more success, we stepped back. We stepped back and we said, what is it that helped drive our success in those dark days, or in when the challenges were so overwhelming and it was so unclear as to what the outcomes would be? Said, what were those lessons, and how do we make sure that we keep the things that helped us get to where we are today, say 12 or 13 years ago, as we began to show that we were no longer a survival company, but had the potential to sustain ourselves and be a survivor. And we thought about those, and a few of them came very clear to us. First was, survival is a powerful, powerful stimulus. And it's not something you can replace by saying, hey, you're going to get fired in 6 months. Unlike if you have 6 months of cash left, you know that you've got to deliver in those 6 months or there's no future. And we had to think about, how do you replace that stimulus? And that really was so clear to us. It was mission, and the power of what you're doing has to have great meaning, and the vision has to unite and create that sense of urgency to replace the idea of survival. You had to be strategically flexible and willing to reinvent yourself. Celgene, in fact, had been founded to be a water purification company, biocatalysis and bioenzymatic processes to break down PCBs in the Hudson River, and also to make chirally pure versions of racemic chemicals to sell to pharmaceutical companies. That was the vision of Celgene when it started. And when it was going to become a pharmaceutical company, it was going to be a virology company. Today, we're a world leader in hematology, oncology, and building inflammatory diseases. So the ability to change course, if that's necessary, is clearly a message of Celgene. And being opportunistic, that you've got to recognize that when you see the opportunity, you have to seize it, and you have to play to win. The other thing that we saw at Celgene was that either we had attracted or developed people who were not afraid of adversity and challenges, but didn't see it always in one way as a problem, but saw it as a disruptive opportunity to find a new and better solution. Of turning adversity into opportunity had become a hallmark of our company. It's something we strive very hard today to maintain and sustain. We also we looked back and we said, take the money when they offer it to you. Don't worry about dilution if you're an early stage company. Have the money to live your dream. Don't argue about every last penny. If there's somebody offers you something, we say, when they're passing it, take it. And the other thing I'd say is that we look back, we were very lucky. We were fortunate. We have a leading class of research in protein homeostasis today and its products contribute almost $10 billion to our top line this year. We offered that to a major pharmaceutical company for a $10 million upfront payment, but they didn't take it. We're incredibly lucky. So partnering is one thing. Giving away your crown jewels and not having a win-win is not so lucky, it's not so good. We were fortunate to be lucky. Celgene, as we looked at it, and we've always seen it as an experiment. Can you be an entrepreneurial company where people really matter? Every individual matters and can make a difference, and do that on a global scale with impact. It's an experiment that never ends or only ends unsuccessfully. If you become bureaucratic or you become not willing to take the risks that are necessary to achieve outstanding results, to produce superior results, you've got to take significant risks. And can you do that as you become larger? And it's a challenge that we've always thought about, and we fought hard to resist the kind of development that would lead us to become bureaucratic. A few years ago, as we thought about having gone from survival to sustainability to global success, what are the lessons we learned and how do we think about that? Just a few years ago, we went through a similar exercise and said, let's sit down for a day and really think about what drives our success, what helps us produce the results that we have achieved for over a decade of industry-leading revenue and earnings per share growth, and that intensity and the urgency and the commitment to do the right thing. What were those characteristics? What were those key success factors? And how do we ensure we get rid of the things that may have held us back? And we saw some of the very similar messages and factors when we looked at it almost 10 years later. We thought about what they were. First was mission, that the identification with the difference in making a difference in patients' lives in a meaningful way is what united our people and gave them the willingness to take the kind of risks that were necessary to achieve the kind of outcomes that we desired. There was a strong commitment to science. And that was another way of saying, we're not doing something that is incremental. We want to be part of something that is going to make disruptive change, that is going to have transformational impact on the lives of people if we're successful. And we have to be courageous, which means we have to take risks. We can't be conservative and just try and maintain where we are. If we're not moving forward and taking new, bold risks, we'll fall behind very quickly. We want to retain that entrepreneurial spirit. We think that the power of the individual, that every single person needs to feel the ownership of the enterprise, that no one should come to work and believe what they do is not important, that every individual's impact influences the results of their team, and their team has a significant impact on the results of the greater organization. That feeling of individual responsibility, that entrepreneurial spirit, is something that we felt is critical to maintain to produce superior performance and outstanding results. We thought we needed to continue to be opportunistic, not be afraid to change. Okay, hematology today, but if we see great scientific potential in another area, we have to be willing to put our money there. We've made major investments in molecular biology, in the billions of dollars over the last 7 or 8 years, but we've also, the last 3 or 4 years, made hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of investments in information technology because we have such a fundamental belief that healthcare broadly defined, and life sciences specifically, both from drug discovery all the way through reimbursement, dramatically changing over the next 10 years because of the application of information technology to speed up analytics and the ability to really understand what we're doing, what we should be doing. Healthcare will be so fundamentally different a decade from now because of the application in an intense way of information technology. We need to be a leader in that. And we always need to be focused on operational excellence. If you're not the best at what you do, you will not attract the best people. If you don't strive to be the best, your people won't believe in the mission of what you're doing, and they won't produce the best results. And the overriding lesson that we had was, it's about the people. If you don't care about your people, if you don't believe you're creating an environment for them to learn for their entire time at your company, that they have the opportunity to influence what happens, you will not create the kind of culture of creativity, risk-taking, and invention that will overcome the tremendous risks that we face in our business to produce the kind of disruptive change. As we thought about those things and worked on governance processes to encourage the kind of behaviors and beliefs and values that we consider so dear to us, there were also other things that became apparent to us. We desired to become a great company. And dynamic institutions and dynamic companies have certain common characteristics. And to me, the first thing is that they're self-aware. They understand really what their strengths are. They really do understand what their limitations are, that they are not uncomfortable with examining themselves with a rigor that leads to a frank assessment of where we are or where they are. But secondly, dynamic companies are also, and institutions are focused externally. They understand the world around them. They understand the opportunities and the challenges, and they then have the capability of architecting a strategy that reflects a realistic view of what their capabilities and opportunities are internally and match it up with the external environmental opportunities and concerns and challenges, and build that strategy and execute on it and produce outstanding results. And we saw that. I'll give you an example of how that is so important, because Celgene historically had been an incredibly insular company just to get our main product approved, and it was the right thing for Celgene to be an insular company. But as we began to become more successful, if we hadn't become more focused on the outside world, our ability to really prosper would have been diminished greatly. 2008, 2009 comes, the world is ending. The financial crisis happening. There will no longer be a life sciences industry. Venture capital is not going to fund another startup company. There'll be no other good ideas. Everybody's depressed. The world is ending. Our business is finally taking off because our products are getting approved, our new products, and having very significant impact on patients. Our cash flow is growing. We don't see that as a bad thing. We see that as a great thing. We believe that's what's happening, and we're going to help step in the void there. And we think about our own capabilities. We have an exciting but relatively narrow pipeline. We're not a company that has the greatest reputation for science around the world. We're a small company and just growing. But it was an opportunity for us to say, the world has changed, our strategy should change, and we're going to become incredibly externally focused and have a distributed research strategy and pipeline to really partner with people. Not just to add to our pipeline, but we thought about our strategy of research and we said, we can create a new paradigm here. We can find people who share our vision of what opportunity would be in a technology or a pathway or attacking a certain disease. If they share our vision and they believe they can learn from us, and we believe we can learn from them, we can create a win-win structure and do it in so that provide them the resources, but able for us to have campaigns in those technologies, not just one product adding to a pipeline or binary result, but to really facilitate learning and increase the probability of success for them and for us. And this idea of understanding what the world, the environment around us needed, and understanding what we had and didn't have, allowed us to create, over the last 5 or 6 years, a company that has been totally transformed. And our potential is so dramatically different today than it would have been 5 or 6 years ago if we hadn't looked at the world and understood where we were and saw great potential by bringing those strategies together. And we don't want to change that. We think that paradigm of collaboration is something that produces far higher probability of success and much better outcomes in the long term. And it has the tertiary benefit for better decision making. If your partner doesn't want to invest more, why are you investing more? If you're not investing more, why is the partner investing? The learning that goes on, the decision making, especially when it comes to research, it's so hard to decide where to accelerate, where to pull back, what to stop. And the process that we put together enabled us, we believe, to make better decisions, both go and to not go. And it provides a much better win-win opportunity for the long term. So when we think about Celgene, it's no different than any other company that you're with, and the opportunity will happen or not happen. And hopefully some of the lessons that we've learned will continue to advance and help our company continue to grow over a period of time. When I think about broadly all of our companies, all our institutions, we live in a world that has significant trends going on. And it's very important to understand those mega trends, those major trends, because they influence everything we do. And there's three that I want to mention to you this afternoon. First is the issue of demographics is a very, very significant and real issue for us in healthcare and life sciences. Aging populations cause increasing use of healthcare. That's a good thing in the sense that aging populations occurring. But it is going to be a tremendous pressure for the next 25 years. It's estimated if we don't cure or delay the onset of Alzheimer's, we will spend $1 trillion in 2040, $1.2 trillion in 2050, just for the direct care and institutionalization of Alzheimer's patients, not loss of economic productivity. If we don't deal with the crisis of metabolic disease or cures for diabetes, et cetera, we're going to spend 2/3 to 3/4 of the amount on Alzheimer's for the care of diabetic and metabolic diseases. Cancer, almost the same, because cancer is also a disease of the elderly, the aging. We are in a race of the increasing costs of healthcare for aging population versus innovation. A very significant challenge in our society, and there are people who don't necessarily see the answers to that race and how to invest and where not to invest and how to manage costs. It's a significant issue. It's a real one. It's going to be with us for at least the next 25 to 30 years in terms of influencing policies and decisions that are made that affect us all in the ecosystem of biomedical innovation. The other issue that is going on is not spoken out as much every day about it, but there are forces in our society and around the world that have different views about how to innovate and how to produce solutions that we need for these incredibly tough societal issues. There are people, and I happen to be in the camp of market-based solutions, that we need to encourage people to take risks, take financial risks, take personal risks, reputational risks, to produce great breakthroughs, and market-based solutions are a critical part, in my mind, of that. But there are people who are equally passionately believe the government should be the solution for these issues. And anyone, when you're dealing with all of these issues, it's in the background, and there are people who have strong views on either side that influence policy, legislative actions, in the United States, absolutely, and all around the world. The other trend that I will point out to you as you think about your companies is there is a phenomenon in our industry, certainly in the pharmaceutical, the biopharmaceutical industry, of consolidation versus innovation. We are not immune to the cost pressures of the society in terms of the struggle with the rising costs of the care of the elderly, and the cost of innovation and the trade-offs that need to be made on those things. And innovation is running against consolidation. And you look at ways of companies operating. So when you're dealing with partners, you have to think about that. Are you accelerating somebody's innovation? Are you accelerating consolidation? It's always on the mind of the strategic leaders of the companies in this industry, because you're going to be one or the other, and you better run very hard if you don't want to be part of the ladder of consolidation. The issues that we face in a society are extremely tough, but these are choices that we are going to make. And one of the most challenging things that we have in our society is that we have a soundbite economy, a soundbite political world where people just want simple solutions. The issues that we face are challenging. The solutions are complicated. They're not soundbite answers, but we have to, as leaders in this area, ensure whatever decisions we make, if we decide we want to have more government involvement, and we want to have retrenchment and rationing of health care, that's great. But let's make sure we make that decision on an informed basis, not through people who have misinformation or lack of information. We have to do a much better job on our side to ensure that people are educated on the issues, so that when the society makes those tough issues about how much we're going to invest in Alzheimer's research, how much we're going to support access to innovative medicines for our citizens, we make them on an informed basis, and ones that understand the long-term consequences of our actions. And that's a challenge, but it's something that we're committed to being a positive part of. I generally have a rule whenever I speak in public that I refuse to speak if I don't speak about drug pricing. I won't come unless I can speak about drug pricing, and I only have about a minute and a half left, but I'm going to tell you drug pricing is an important issue, but it's related to the overall issue of biomedical innovation. And I just tell you, I hope that you will invest time to understand the issue. It is far more complicated and complex than people make out to be on sound bites. And the system actually works. There's talk about negotiation of prices. In fact, if you think of Medicare Part D, which is the oral prescription drug coverage under Medicare, the first time, this last decade is the first time senior citizens in America had a prescription drug benefit under Medicare. It's so much costs so much less than if the government, well, they say negotiated, because the average discount is around 30% because the market negotiates it through the plans. The government gets a 23.5% discount on Medicaid and veterans programs. There's so much discounting that goes on. Our products are the only component of healthcare that I promise you in 10 years from now will be lower cost than they are today. And that's that cycle of innovation, disruptive technology, and then the use of those products hopefully for decades beyond at pennies on the dollar. So the issue of drug pricing is something that none of us that speak for the industry are ever afraid to talk about, because it's not a soundbite, it's complicated, but we're open. If you come, next time you have a symposium, a conference, we're glad to come and have actually panels specifically on drug pricing, impact on innovation, and the whole issues that we should address together. There is one other issue that I would be remiss if I didn't bring up in North Carolina. North Carolina is an incredible state with a vibrant biomedical innovation economy and ecosystem, but is only one of 10 states remaining that doesn't have oral parity for cancer drugs, that patients and physicians in North Carolina have to make choices between an oral drug versus an IV drug that have very different characteristics. Only 10 states left in the United States that do not have an oral parity drug to ensure that doctors and patients are making the most rational decisions, and it's not based on some kind of other co-payment system, that whatever the drugs are, they should be treated equally, oral or IV. And I just put that on the radar screen because our people in state government would say, you better mention that. But I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to have been with you this afternoon. I look forward to participating and learning from the panels, and thanks very much for having me. Thank you.